Nyasha Bell, a black woman who survived 2 years of emotional abuse from a racist ex-boyfriend, is about to face him again in the worst possible place. A crowded mall. Christmas Eve. Surrounded by strangers who will watch everything but do nothing. She came to buy toys for a women's shelter. She's leaving with bruises, scattered gifts, and 50 phones recording her humiliation. But what her ex-boyfriend doesn't know is that the woman he's about to attack in public is no longer the scared girl he once controlled. She's now married to one of the wealthiest men in the country. A man who happens to be walking through those mall doors in exactly 8 minutes. What happens when a racist abuser attacks a black woman in front of a crowd and her billionaire husband arrives just in time? Stay tuned to find out. Before we get into this powerful story, drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from today. Have you ever been in a situation where people watched but nobody helped? Share your experience below. And if this story moves you, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss another video that matters. His voice cut through the Christmas music like a blade. Didn't expect to see you here. Nyasha froze. Her body recognized him before her mind caught up. The tightening in her chest. The sudden heat in her ears. The instinct to shrink, to disappear, to become invisible. She didn't turn around. Didn't need to. Gavin Mercer. Her ex. The man who spent 2 years convincing her she was crazy. Too sensitive. Too dramatic. Not like those other black women who play victim. Guess charity finally let you in the front doors. His words were loud. Deliberate. Meant for the crowd, not for her. Meant to perform, to establish, to frame her before she could speak. Nyasha stood in the center atrium of Riverview Galleria, one of those upscale malls where glass ceilings made money feel like sunlight. A massive Christmas tree towered behind her. Gold ornaments. Red ribbons. Artificial perfection. She wore a red suit. Tailored. Clean. The kind of outfit black women wear when they're tired of being underestimated but still refuse to beg for respect. Her shopping bag was full of toys. For a women's shelter in South Jersey. Quiet generosity. No cameras. No applause. Now this. She turned slowly. Controlled. Gavin hadn't changed. Same smirk. Same entitlement. Same way of taking up space like the world owed him room. Dark denim jacket over a gray hoodie. Jeans. Casual aggression dressed as confidence. But he wasn't alone. 2 men flanked him. Security jackets unzipped just enough to look unofficial. Dangerous. The kind of men who enjoy power without responsibility. I don't want trouble, Nyasha said. Voice calm. Measured. Please move. That should have been the end. But men like Gavin don't want peace. They want submission. You hear that? He laughed, turning to the crowd that had started to gather. She's playing victim already. Phones came out. Not to help. To record. Nyasha felt the familiar trap closing around her. The narrative forming in real time. Angry black woman. Causing a scene. Probably started it. She had done nothing. Said nothing wrong. And already, she was losing. A woman nearby whispered to her husband. Here we go again. Here we go again. Like Nyasha was a pattern. A type. A problem to be expected. Gavin stepped closer. You got real quiet, he said. What's wrong? Cat got your tongue? Or did you finally learn your place? Her hands trembled at her sides. Not from fear. From restraint. From swallowing words that would only make this worse. Under her glove, she felt the ring. The one she never took off. The one that connected her to a life Gavin didn't know existed. Her phone was in her pocket. 1 text. 3 words. But she couldn't reach for it. Not yet. Not without making this worse. Gavin nodded to his guards. Subtle. Confident. They stepped forward. And Nyasha realized she wasn't just being confronted. She was being surrounded. 3 years ago, Nyasha would have apologized. Would have made herself smaller. Would have let Gavin rewrite reality until she doubted her own name. But 3 years ago, she hadn't yet learned that survival sometimes looks like stillness. The memories hit her in fragments. Not full scenes. Sensations. His voice saying, "You're different from the others." Later clarifying he meant, not like those black women who make everything about race. His laugh when friends made jokes she couldn't repeat. His dismissal when she cried. "You're too sensitive." It was just a joke. The way he isolated her from family. Made her doubt her worth. Made her feel grateful for crumbs of affection that weren't affection at all. 2 years of that relationship. 2 years of erosion. She left with nothing but courage. Built herself back piece by piece. Found therapy. Found purpose. Found Elijah. But trauma doesn't forget faces. And her body remembered Gavin even when her mind wanted to forget. "I'm leaving," she said now. Clear. Final. "I want no part of this." She turned toward the exit. Gavin moved to block her. Where do you think you're going? Away from you. See, that's your problem. His voice rose, playing to the crowd. You always run. Always make yourself the victim. Always blame everyone else. Nyasha stopped. Turned back slowly. I blamed you, she said quietly. For what you did. That's not being a victim. That's being honest. Something flickered in Gavin's eyes. Not guilt. Rage. The kind that comes when control slips. When the script doesn't go as planned. He looked at his guards. You hearing this? She's threatening me. The first guard stepped forward. Badge that said security. Eyes that said something else. Ma'am, you causing a disturbance? The question was already an accusation. Already decided. No, Nyasha said. This man is harassing me. I'm trying to leave. The guard looked at Gavin. Then back at her. Sir, is this woman bothering you? Gavin put his hand on his chest. Mock concern. Performance victimhood. I'm just worried about her, he said. She seems unstable. We used to date. She never got over it. The lie landed perfectly. Because it fit the narrative they wanted. People in the crowd nodded. Someone muttered, typical. Typical. The word hit Nyasha like a slap. She was being flattened. Reduced. Turned into a stereotype in real time. Angry black woman. Troublemaker. The kind who always plays victim. Her hand slipped into her pocket. Found her phone. Typed 3 words without looking. Riverview Galleria. Now. Sent. 8 minutes. If Elijah got the message. If traffic wasn't blocked. If he understood what now meant. 8 minutes might as well be 8 hours. Gavin stepped closer. Close enough that she could smell his cologne. The same one from 3 years ago. The smell of control pretending to be charm. You know what your problem is, he said quietly. Just for her. You always thought you were better than me. Better than everyone. Let's see how better you feel now. He signaled to his guards again. Both moved behind her. Blocking escape. Completing the trap. And the crowd kept recording. The guards didn't ask what happened. They didn't need to. They had already decided who the problem was the moment they saw her. Step aside, ma'am. The first guard's voice was loud. Performative. Making sure everyone heard. I haven't done anything, Nyasha said. That's not what we're seeing. What are you seeing? A black woman standing? A black woman breathing? What exactly is the crime? The guard's jaw tightened. Don't make this difficult. I'm not making anything. I'm trying to leave. You're blocking me. Gavin stepped into the gap, hands raised like he was the reasonable one. Officers, I just want to make sure she's okay. She's been erratic. Emotional. I'm genuinely concerned. The lie was so smooth. So practiced. Nyasha had heard it before. In their apartment. In front of friends. In every argument she tried to win with facts while he won with fiction. Ma'am, the second guard said, we need you to calm down. She was calm. Completely calm. But calm didn't matter. They needed her to be the problem. I am calm, she said. Look at me. I haven't raised my voice. Haven't moved. You can see I'm calm. She's getting aggressive, the first guard said into his radio. Loud enough for everyone to hear. Aggressive. She hadn't raised a hand. Hadn't taken a step. Just existed. In a space that decided she didn't belong. The Christmas music kept playing. Joy to the world. The irony was crushing. I want to speak to your supervisor, Nyasha said. Ma'am, we are the supervisors. Then I want your names. Badge numbers. I want documentation of this interaction. The guards exchanged a look. Not concern. Annoyance. They had done this before. Would do it again. Black women asking questions was an inconvenience, not a right. Gavin smiled. That smile she knew from nightmares. See what I mean, he said to the crowd. She's always like this. Everything's a fight. Everything's an argument. She can't just be normal. Normal. The word twisted in Nyasha's chest. She had spent years trying to be normal. Smaller. Quieter. Less threatening. Less black. Less herself. It was never enough. Would never be enough. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. One word from Elijah, coming. 6 minutes. Maybe less. Maybe more. She couldn't check. Couldn't look away from the guards who were now positioning themselves on either side of her. Not touching. Not yet. Just close enough to make escape impossible. I'm going to ask you one more time to let me leave, Nyasha said. And I'm going to ask you to cooperate, the first guard replied. Cooperate with what? Being harassed? Being surrounded? Being treated like a criminal for shopping. The crowd shifted. Some uncomfortable. Some entertained. None stepping forward. The bystander effect in full force. multiplied by racial bias. They weren't just failing to help. They were participating. By watching. By recording. By choosing not to see. Gavin leaned closer. You should have stayed gone, Nyasha. Should have stayed in whatever hole you crawled into. But you had to come back. Had to show your face. Had to remind me that you exist. His breath was hot on her ear. And now everyone's going to see what happens to women like you. One guard grabbed her arm. Hard. Fingers digging into flesh. The other blocked her path completely. And Gavin raised his hand. Gavin shoved her. Not an accident. Not a bump. A shove with his full weight behind it, meant to humiliate, meant to dominate, meant to remind her of every time he'd made her feel small. Nyasha hit the polished marble floor. Hard. The impact echoed through the atrium like a punctuation mark. Her shopping bag flew from her hands. Toys scattered across the tiles. A stuffed bear rolled toward a stranger's feet. No one picked it up. She tried to catch herself. Palms scraping against cold stone. Her red suit now dirty. Rumpled. The careful dignity she'd dressed herself in destroyed in seconds. The crowd gasped. But gasps don't stop violence. They just acknowledge it. Like applause for the wrong show. Stop resisting, one guard yelled. She wasn't resisting. She was on the ground. But the words were already building the narrative. Combative female. Aggressive behavior. Resisting. Words designed to justify whatever came next. The first guard grabbed her arm. Yanked her to her knees. The second blocked her from standing. I'm not resisting, Nyasha managed. Voice cracking. Please. I didn't do anything. Just stay down, ma'am. I'm trying to. I said stay down. The Christmas tree sparkled behind them. Golden red. Peace on earth. Not for her. Gavin stood over her now. Looking down with that expression she knew too well. Satisfaction. The pleasure of power exercised without consequence. You always thought you were better, he said quietly. Just for her. Let's see how better you look from down there. He raised his foot. The sole of his boot inches from her face. Time stretched. The humiliation. The rage. The old wounds reopening. The certainty that if she screamed, she'd be blamed. If she stayed silent, she'd disappear. Either way, she lost. Either way, he won. That's how it always worked. You know what? Gavin said, loud enough for the crowd now. I feel sorry for you. I really do. You could have been something. But you chose to be difficult. Chose to be a victim. And now look at you. He gestured at her like she was evidence in his case. Exhibit A, the woman who deserved what she got. The crowd watched. Recorded. Whispered. Judged. 50 people. 50 phones. Not one voice saying stop. Not one hand reaching to help. Just the sound of Christmas music and the silence of strangers. Gavin's foot drew back. Preparing to strike. Nyasha braced for impact. Every muscle tight. Every breath held. This was it. This was where 3 years of rebuilding ended. On a mall floor. On Christmas Eve. In front of witnesses who would remember her as the problem. She closed her eyes. Then something changed. A sound. Footsteps. Fast. Heavy. Purposeful. A voice cutting through the chaos like a blade through silk. Get away from her. Gavin's foot froze mid-motion. The guards turned. The crowd parted. And Nyasha opened her eyes to see a fist connect with Gavin's jaw. The impact echoed louder than any Christmas carol. Gavin stumbled backward. Shock replacing arrogance. And a man in a navy blue suit stepped between Nyasha and everyone who had failed her. Eyes cold. Posture controlled. Violence restrained by discipline. But barely. The word landed like thunder. Wife. The guard's grips loosened by instinct. The crowd stopped recording to stare. And Gavin, for the first time since he'd seen her, looked afraid. Nyasha looked up at the man standing between her and the world. Elijah Rhodes. Her husband. The man she'd married quietly 3 years ago after rebuilding herself from nothing. The man who hated public attention. The man whose wealth was whispered, not flaunted. The billionaire no one recognized until it was too late. He didn't look at her. Not yet. His eyes were fixed on Gavin, who was picking himself up from the floor, hand pressed to his jaw. Who the hell? Gavin started. I said, Elijah repeated, get away from my wife. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the Christmas music seemed to fade. Gavin's face cycled through emotions. Confusion first. Who is this guy? Then recognition. The suit. The watch. The 2 men who had appeared behind him, moving with military precision. Then fear. Because Gavin read the news. That face had been in it. Business sections. Philanthropy pages. Tech infrastructure. Global reach. Elijah Rhodes. Self-made billionaire. The kind of money that doesn't ask permission. Whoa, man. Gavin's voice cracked. Lost its confidence. Relax. This your girl? She was causing a scene. I was just trying to. You were trying to stomp on her face. Not a question. A statement. Gavin's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. That's not what. It's on 50 phones. Elijah's voice was quiet. Almost gentle. Every angle. Every word. Every moment. He turned to the guards. Both had released Nyasha completely now. Both were stepping backward, suddenly unsure, suddenly aware that they had miscalculated badly. You, Elijah said to the first guard. You grabbed my wife's arm. Sir, we were just responding to. You called her aggressive while she was on her knees. The situation was. And you. He turned to the second guard. You blocked her escape. Reported her as combative. While she was on the ground. Neither guard could respond. What was there to say? The footage would show everything. One of Elijah's men spoke into his sleeve. Local PD notified. Legal team en route. All footage being secured. The guards went pale. This wasn't just embarrassment anymore. This was consequence. Nyasha pulled herself up slowly. Elijah extended his hand without looking away from the guards. She took it. Strong fingers closing around hers. He helped her stand. Brushed dust from her shoulder. I'm sorry I wasn't faster, he said. Just for her. She shook her head. You're here. That's what matters. He kept her hand in his. Didn't let go. The crowd watched in silence. This wasn't the story they expected. Angry black woman. Disturbance at the mall. This was something else. A husband protecting his wife. Love standing up to hate. Wealth choosing purpose over comfort. Someone in the crowd whispered, "Is that Elijah Rhodes?" Another phone came out. But different now. Recording the protector. Not the victim. The narrative was shifting. Nyasha could feel it. The same crowd that watched her fall was now watching her rise. Because power had arrived. And power changed everything. Even truth. Even who got to be the victim. Gavin tried to slip away. Backing toward the edge of the crowd. Hoping to disappear. One of Elijah's men blocked him. Going somewhere? I didn't do anything. Elijah finally turned to face him fully. You shoved my wife onto the ground. In public. On Christmas Eve. There are 40 phones with footage. Every angle. Every word. Every second. Gavin's face twisted. It was a misunderstanding. She provoked me. She always. Stop. One word. But it carried weight. The weight of lawyers and lawsuits and consequences that men like Gavin never believed would touch them. You touched her, Elijah said. That's not a misunderstanding. That's assault. Mall security radios crackled. Real security this time. Supervisors. Then police. 2 officers approached. Took one look at the scene. At Elijah's team. At the phones. At the footage already being compiled. What happened here? Elijah stepped forward. Calm. Controlled. Prepared. My wife was assaulted by this man. He pointed at Gavin. These 2 restrained her instead of helping. He pointed at the guards. It's all documented. Every second. The officers looked at Gavin. At the guards. At Nyasha's dirty suit. At the scattered toys. The evidence told its own story. One officer spoke into his radio. We're gonna need backup. Gavin started talking fast. Explaining. Justifying. Blaming alcohol. Stress. Misunderstanding. But the officers weren't listening to him anymore. They were listening to witnesses. The same witnesses who had stayed silent while Nyasha was on the ground were now suddenly brave. Suddenly willing to tell the truth. Because power had arrived. And power made honesty safe. Gavin felt the handcuffs before he saw them coming. This is ridiculous, he sputtered. Do you know who I am? The officer tightened the cuffs. You're under arrest. For what? Assault. Battery. We'll figure out the rest at the station. Gavin's face went white. Then red. Then white again. She's lying. She started it. Ask anyone. But no one was defending him now. The crowd that had watched silently was now pointing at him. Describing what they saw. What they recorded. What they had allowed to happen. The guards were next. You too, a supervisor said. You're done. Hand over your badges. We were just doing our job. Your job was to protect people. Not assault them. Badges surrendered. Weapons collected. Statements taken. And through it all, Nyasha stood beside Elijah, hand in his, watching the systems that had almost destroyed her now turn against her attackers. As Gavin was led toward the police car, he shouted back at her. One last attempt. One last weapon. You think this changes who you are? Nyasha met his eyes. Didn't flinch. It already did. And watch them take him away. The handcuffs clicked around Gavin's wrists like a period at the end of a sentence he never thought would be written. 3 officers surrounded him now. 2 more had the security guards separated, taking statements, collecting badges. The mall atrium that had witnessed Nyasha's humiliation was now witnessing something else entirely. Accountability. Elijah stood beside his wife, hand still holding hers. His team had fanned out across the space. One securing witness contact information. Another coordinating with the arriving legal team. A third documenting everything on video that would hold up in any courtroom in the country. This is insane, Gavin kept saying. This is absolutely insane. She attacked me. I was defending myself. The officer nearest him didn't respond. Just kept writing. Did you hear me? I want to press charges. Against her. She started this whole thing. Sir, we have footage from 47 phones. You want to tell me again what happened? Gavin's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. The confidence was gone. The smirk was gone. All that remained was a man finally facing what he'd avoided his entire life. Consequences. Nyasha watched him. This man who had spent 2 years making her feel small. 2 years convincing her that her pain wasn't real. That her experiences weren't valid. That she was the problem. Now he stood in handcuffs, surrounded by officers, being read his rights while Christmas music played in the background. The irony was almost poetic. Mrs. Rhodes? She turned. A female officer approached, notepad in hand. Kind eyes. Professional demeanor. I'm Officer Tanya Williams. I need to take your statement when you're ready. Nyasha nodded. I'm ready. Take your time. Start from the beginning. So she did. She told them everything. From the moment she heard his voice. The words he used. The way the guards positioned themselves. The shove. The fall. The foot raised above her face. Officer Williams wrote it all down. And you'd never seen those security guards before today? Never. Any idea how they knew Mr. Mercer? Nyasha paused. Looked at Gavin, now being guided toward a police cruiser. I don't know. But the way they moved together. The way they coordinated. That wasn't random. Officer Williams made a note. We'll look into it. Elijah's lead attorney arrived. A sharp woman named Celeste Monroe who had handled cases that made national headlines. She moved through the crowd like she owned the space, which in a legal sense, she soon might. Nyasha. Celeste took her hands. Are you hurt? Do you need medical attention? I'm okay. Shaken, but okay. Good. Because we're going to need you strong for what comes next. What comes next? Celeste smiled. The kind of smile that made opposing counsel nervous. Everything. She turned to her team. I want that mall security footage. All of it. Not just tonight. I want hiring records for those 2 guards. I want to know who employed them, who trained them, and who told them to target my client. I want the manager of this establishment in a deposition by end of week. And I want every phone video tagged, timestamped, and preserved. Her team scattered like soldiers given orders. Elijah watched his wife give her statement. Patient. Present. Not interrupting. Not taking over. Just standing close enough that she knew he was there. That was the man she married. Not the billionaire. Not the businessman. The man who understood that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply not leave. Gavin was placed in the back of a cruiser. Through the window, his eyes found Nyasha one last time. Hatred. Pure and unfiltered. But impotent now. Contained. Controlled by systems that finally worked the way they were supposed to. The cruiser pulled away. And Nyasha exhaled for the first time in what felt like hours. It's not over, Elijah said quietly. You know that, right? She nodded. I know. But it started. That's what matters. He squeezed her hand. That's what matters. The legal machine moved faster than anyone expected. Within 48 hours, Gavin Mercer was charged with assault, battery, and harassment. The 2 security guards faced separate charges for false imprisonment and civil rights violations. The mall itself received notice of a lawsuit that would make their insurance company very, very nervous. But the real damage wasn't legal. It was public. The videos went viral within hours of the incident. #Justice for Nyasha trended nationally. News outlets picked up the story. The narrative that Gavin had tried to create, the angry black woman causing a scene, collapsed under the weight of evidence. 47 angles. 47 phones. 47 witnesses who could no longer pretend they didn't see what happened. Nyasha sat in Celeste's office 3 days after Christmas, watching the news coverage on a wall-mounted screen. Her face was everywhere. So was Gavin's mugshot. The DA's office wants to make an example, Celeste explained. High-profile case. Clear evidence. Billionaire victim. They're pushing for maximum charges. I'm not a billionaire, Nyasha said. Elijah is. Celeste smiled. In the eyes of the law, you're both. Community property state. But more importantly, you're a victim who has resources to fight back. That terrifies people like Gavin. That's why this matters. Elijah sat in the corner, letting Celeste lead. This was her arena. What about the guards? He asked. Marcus Webb and Terrence Cole. Both have histories of excessive force complaints. Both were fired from previous security jobs. Both were hired by a private firm that Gavin's family has used before. Nyasha straightened. So this wasn't random. We don't think so. We're investigating the connection. If we can prove coordination, this becomes conspiracy. Federal charges. Much bigger consequences. The weight of that settled over the room. Gavin hadn't just happened to find her at that mall. He had planned it. Brought backup. Orchestrated his own version of justice for whatever imagined slight he believed she'd committed by simply moving on with her life. There's something else, Celeste continued. Other women have come forward. Nyasha's breath caught. What? Since the story broke, 3 women have contacted us. They all dated Gavin. They all experienced similar patterns. Isolation. Manipulation. Racial harassment. None of them pressed charges before. They were too afraid. Too isolated. Too convinced that no one would believe them. Tears formed in Nyasha's eyes. She wasn't alone. She had never been alone. They want to testify, Celeste said. If this goes to trial, they want to tell their stories. Will they be protected? We'll make sure of it. Elijah reached over. Took Nyasha's hand. This is bigger than one night, he said. You know that, right? This is about every woman he hurt. Every woman who stayed silent because she thought no one would listen. Nyasha nodded slowly. Then let's make sure everyone listens. The trial date was set for 3 months later. In the meantime, the civil suit against the mall moved forward. 2 supervisors were terminated. Security protocols were overhauled. Cultural sensitivity training became mandatory. Change. Real change. Not because they wanted to be better. Because being worse had finally cost them something. Gavin's family tried to negotiate. Offered settlements. Sealed records. Quiet resolutions. Nyasha refused every one. This isn't about money, she told Celeste. It never was. Then what is it about? Nyasha looked at the screen. At her own face. At the mugshot of the man who had tried to destroy her. It's about the next woman. The one who hasn't been hurt yet. The one who might meet someone like him and not have a billionaire husband to protect her. I want her to see this. I want her to know that sometimes, the system works. That sometimes, abusers face consequences. That sometimes, silence isn't the only option. Celeste nodded slowly. Then we go to trial. We go to trial. The courtroom was packed. Every seat filled. Media in the back rows. Cameras outside. The kind of attention that made lawyers famous and defendants nervous. Gavin sat at the defense table in a suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. His attorney beside him. His family behind him. All the resources that had protected him his entire life arranged like armor. But armor doesn't stop truth. Nyasha took the witness stand on day 3. She wore blue. Calm. Composed. The same stillness that had kept her alive through 2 years with Gavin and the 8 minutes in that mall. Mrs. Rhodes, the prosecutor began. Can you describe what happened on December 24th? She could. She did. Every detail. Every word. Every moment of humiliation and fear. Delivered clearly, without dramatics, without performance. Just truth. The defense attorney tried to break her. Isn't it true that you and Mr. Mercer had a contentious relationship? He abused me for 2 years. I'd call that more than contentious. But you never filed charges. Never reported him. Why should the jury believe you now? Because I was afraid then. I'm not afraid anymore. Convenient that your fear disappeared once you married a billionaire. Objection. Sustained. But the implication hung in the air. Nyasha addressed it directly. I didn't need money to tell the truth. I needed safety. I needed people who believed me. I needed to see that when I spoke, someone would listen. For years, I had none of those things. Now I do. That's not convenience. That's survival. The jury watched her. 12 faces. 12 sets of eyes measuring credibility, emotion, honesty. She held their gaze. One by one. The other women testified next. Keisha. Dominic. Alana. 3 women with different faces and the same story. The same manipulation. The same isolation. The same phrases. You're too sensitive. You're different from the others. No one will believe you. The same man. Pattern evidence. Character evidence. The kind that destroys defenses built on isolated incident claims. Gavin watched them testify. His face carefully neutral. His attorney objecting when possible, which wasn't often. The footage played on the final day. 47 angles, condensed into 12 minutes of damning clarity. The shove. The fall. The scattered toys. The guards restraining a woman on her knees while calling her aggressive. Gavin's foot rising above her face. The punch that stopped it. Get away from my wife. For words that changed everything. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, Gavin stood. His attorney beside him. His family holding breath behind him. On the charge of assault, we find the defendant guilty. Gavin's mother gasped. On the charge of battery, we find the defendant guilty. His attorney closed his eyes. On the charge of harassment, we find the defendant guilty. 3 counts. 3 convictions. Sentencing would come later. But the verdict was clear. Guilty. 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 Nyasha didn't react. Didn't cry. Didn't celebrate. She just sat there. Feeling the weight of the word. Justice. Imperfect. Incomplete. But real. When she finally stood, Elijah was beside her. How do you feel? He asked quietly. She thought about it. Like I can breathe. For the first time in years. She could actually breathe. The mall looked different in January. Christmas decorations gone. Tree removed. The spot where Nyasha had fallen now just polished marble, no different from the rest. But she remembered. Her body remembered. She stood in that exact spot, Elijah beside her, feeling the ghost of that night wash over her. You didn't have to come back here, he said. I know. I needed to. Why? She took a breath. Let it out slowly. Because he doesn't own this space anymore. He doesn't own any space in my life. And I needed to prove that to myself. Elijah nodded. He understood. Trauma marks places. Turns ordinary locations into monuments of pain. Coming back was a way of reclaiming. Rewriting. Refusing to let the worst moment define the geography of her life. They walked through the atrium slowly. Past the stores. Past the benches. Past the spot where strangers had recorded instead of helped. I've been thinking, Nyasha said. About what happens now. The trial is over. Gavin's going to prison. The guards lost their licenses. The mall paid the settlement. But it's not enough. What would be enough? Nothing brings back what I lost. The years with him. The fear. The doubt. Nothing fixes that. But maybe something can come from it. She stopped. Turned to face him. I want to start a foundation. For women who survived what I survived. Not just the ones with money and resources. The ones with nothing. The ones still trapped. The ones who think silence is their only option. Elijah's eyes softened. Tell me more. So she did. A foundation that provided legal support. Counseling. Safe housing. Job training. Everything she had wished existed when she was alone and afraid and convinced that no one would believe her. We call it second sunrise, she said. Because everyone deserves a chance to start again. It's perfect. It's expensive. Elijah smiled. Good thing you married a billionaire. She laughed. Actually laughed. The sound surprising even herself. That's not why I married you. I know. But it doesn't hurt. He pulled her close. Held her in the middle of that mall. In the spot where everything had changed. I love you, he said. I love you too. We're going to build something important. I know. And it's going to help people. That's the point. She looked up at the glass ceiling. Winter light streaming through. Cold and clear and new. This wasn't where her story ended. This was where a new chapter began. Not as a victim. Not as a billionaire's wife. As Nyasha Bell Rhodes. Survivor. Advocate. Voice. The woman she had always been. Finally allowed to exist. 6 months later, the Second Sunrise Foundation opened its doors. A brownstone in Newark. Renovated. Welcoming. Safe. Nyasha stood at the entrance on opening day, watching women arrive. Some with children. Some alone. All carrying stories that had brought them here. Inside, counselors waited. Lawyers reviewed cases. Case managers connected clients with housing, jobs, education. Everything she had wished for when she was alone. Now real. Now available to anyone who needed it. Elijah stood beside her, as he always did. Not in front. Not leading. Just present. You built this, he said. We built this. No. I wrote checks. You built this. Every detail. Every program. Every person here is here because of you. Nyasha shook her head. They're here because they had the courage to leave. I just made sure there was somewhere to go. A young woman approached. Barely 20. Holding a toddler on her hip. "Are you Mrs. Rhodes?" she asked. "Nyasha. Just Nyasha. I saw you on the news. What happened to you at that mall?" "I showed my mama. She cried. Said she wished she'd had someone to help her when she was young." Nyasha felt her throat tighten. "Is your mama here?" "No, ma'am. She passed 2 years ago. But I'm here. And I need help." Nyasha reached out. Touched the young woman's arm. "Then you're in the right place. Come inside. Let us help you." The young woman's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you're on the other side of this." She watched the woman walk inside. Watched the door close behind her. Watched the beginning of another story of survival. This was the legacy. Not the trial. Not the verdict. Not the headlines. This. One woman helping another. One voice saying you're not alone. One door opening when all the others had closed. Nyasha thought about Gavin. Somewhere in a federal facility. Serving 3 years. Stripped of the confidence that had made him dangerous. She didn't think about him often. He didn't deserve the space in her mind. But sometimes she wondered if he understood yet. What he had lost. What he had given away. The chance to be decent. The chance to be loved. The chance to be remembered for something other than cruelty. Probably not. Men like Gavin rarely learned. But women like Nyasha did. They learned that survival was the first step. Speaking was the second. Building was the third. And every woman who walked through those foundation doors would learn the same thing. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become after. The sun set over Newark. Orange and pink and gold. Nyasha stood on the steps of second sunrise. Watching the sky. Thinking about Christmas Eve. Thinking about marble floors and scattered toys and 50 phones that recorded but didn't help. Thinking about a man in a navy suit who arrived exactly when she needed him. Thinking about all the women who didn't have that. And committing, again, to be what they needed. A voice. A hand. A door. A second sunrise. If this story touched your heart, if it made you think about strength, survival, and what it means to rise after falling, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss another story that inspires, challenges, and reminds us that change is possible. Drop a comment below and tell us your story. Have you ever been in a situation where no one helped? Have you ever been the one who finally spoke up? Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear right now. Because silence protects abusers. But voices like yours protect survivors. Stories like this remind us that even on our darkest nights, a second sunrise is always possible. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. And thank you for being part of a community that believes every woman deserves to be seen, heard, and protected. Until next time, stay strong. Stay kind. And never stop speaking your truth.